Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alex, and this is my channel Frank Fiction, where I talk about books and the book publishing industry. Today I get to do something really fun, which is start a reading vlog for Howl's Moving Castle. Now the best part about this reading vlog is that I don't know anything about Howl's Moving Castle. I'm serious, I don't know the main character's name, I don't know anything about the plot, I've never seen the Studio Ghibli film, I am completely in the dark. And you might be wondering how that's possible, and the honest answer is just I live under a rock. If I don't want to know about something, if I don't want to learn about something, I stay completely away from spoilers forever. There are so many movies that I still basically don't know anything about. I've had Howl's Moving Castle on my digital TBR for a little while now. I'm a Prime member, and so I was able to get a copy of that book digitally for free. So it's just been chilling out there. I mean, I didn't spend any money on it, so I didn't really have a reason to get to it anytime soon. But when I did my video about booktubers pick my August TBR, Leonie from the book Leo, that was the very first book that she recommended that I had on my TBR, and I was like, well, I guess I have to read it now. But honestly, I'm pretty excited about it because I just got done reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, and that book was pretty hard-hitting. It was definitely a bittersweet story, and it made me sad in parts, and it was just a deeply emotional book. And I'm not going to say that Howl's Moving Castle isn't, because obviously I don't know anything about it, but I have a feeling that it's going to be probably more uplifting or more wholesome in a way that children's books usually are. I did see that the age range for this book is between 10 and 14 years old. I've already got it booted up on my Kindle here, and I have a Kindle Oasis, which is really nice because one, I can read this outside so I don't have to worry about the sunlight glaring on it, and two, it's completely waterproof, and I'm planning on taking a bath tonight, so that means that I don't have to worry about dropping this in the tub. But yeah, I'm really excited to read this. I think it's going to be a nice gentle read. Based off of the page count here, it says there are 308 pages in the book, so it's also not particularly long. It shouldn't take 2 to 3 days for me to get through this, I hope. So let's buckle in and get started with this video, and I hope we'll have a great time. All the talk of baking in this book has got me excited to make sugar cookies, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And while I whip up the ingredients, I figured I'd give you a recap of what I have learned of the story this far. So our main character's name is Sophie, and she is the eldest of 3 sisters. Her other 2 sisters are named Letty and Martha. It is said that because she is the oldest of 3 sisters, that she is going to be the one that has the least amount of fortune in her life. After her father passes, her stepmother Franny ends up sending her sisters away to do apprenticeships and leaves Sophie at the hat shop to basically make hats all day long. And she recognizes that she's basically going to be trapped at the hat shop forever. But Sophie ends up realizing that her sisters schemed to switch places with each other using a magical spell, and I think that that's going to kind of set things in motion for Sophie to decide that she's going to change her future as well and not just stick with whatever tradition is or whatever is expected of her. Melting butter is so difficult because it goes from being not soft enough to molten liquid in like no time at all. I'm going to go ahead and add my egg. I'm going to mix in my vanilla, and then I'll start mixing in my dry ingredients. So this is 3/4 cups of butter, which is basically 1.5 sticks. I'm doing 1 egg, and I'm going to do 1/2 tablespoon of vanilla for the wet ingredients. Nothing is worse than doing dishes and realizing that the thing that you might need could be dirty, but it wasn't. It was clean. I can definitely see why this book has wide appeal and why it could be turned into a Studio Ghibli film. It's not particularly childish. I mean, a lot of the topics I personally feel like are quite adult, like the idea of men walking up to young girls and asking the woman to marry him, even though she's not old enough to start a family. Which that might be attributed to the time that the book was written. I believe it was originally published in 1986. Now I'm not going to say that, oh, it was a different time then, but it was. Regardless, the story is incredibly easy to get into, and I think that I'm gonna just want to spend some time this evening after potentially eating my cookie dough and or baking cookies, just relaxing. It's officially the weekend, so I have all the time that I want to be able to just snuggle up with this book, especially because guess what? It's gonna be raining again. It's been raining so much here, and I'm honestly kind of sick of it because all I want to do is go to the pool. But at least I got a little bit of hammock time today, and I'll probably go back out there again in a little bit. Probably should have done this with a fork. Why am I not using my mixer? Yes, that is a lot easier. Okay, so now I gotta mix the dry ingredients separately and then I will incorporate those into the wet ingredients. Okay, so I needed 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder. I need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I need 3/4 cups of granulated sugar. These are sugar cookies, so it's a lot of sugar. And then I need 1.5 cups of flour. Ooh. Okay, I'm making a mess, but what fun is baking if you don't make a little bit of a mess? Got it all over my phone. Honestly, I can tell I made a huge mistake here by not picking large enough bowls. I have never made this recipe before, so I didn't realize that it was going to be so much, but we're going to do it anyway. So that's what we do here. We persevere. One of my uncles had a saying when I was growing up, which is "the dude abides," which I think is from, is it The Big Lebowski? I've seen The Big Lebowski, but only once. Oh God. Well, this transition in lighting is going to be a huge shock. Sorry about that. My camera battery ended up dying, and then I spent 2 hours on the phone with my friend Cody. Hi, Cody. Also, that's Barker. Come on in, bub. So I didn't get to show you the rest of the mixing process for the dough, and I realized as I was incorporating everything that I had made a mistake. So in other recipes I've done, the wet ingredients and the dry ingredients are mixed together separately and then added together and combined. With these, the softened butter was supposed to be whipped with the sugar and then the other ingredients added. So I ended up kind of accidentally making the cookies a little too cakey, and they're not quite as sweet as I would have liked, but they're most definitely still edible. And they're very soft. I mean, they're moist. But since it's so late in the evening now, I get to take my bath and I get to take my Kindle in there with me. Hi y'all, it's the next day and it's been busy. Keaton and I went over to the mall to putt around and ended up going over to Lush, and I got a few bath bombs, which is something that I haven't done in ages. So I wanted to show you those really quick because I'm honestly really excited about them. I just started taking baths again for relaxing, and it's actually been really great for me in the evenings. So the first one that I have is called the Dragon's Egg, and it looks like it's just pure white, but if you get closer, I have no idea if you're gonna be able to see this or not. You can see that there's kind of some flecks of color in it. And I think what happens is it cracks open and it ends up being really colorful on the inside and probably glittery. So I thought that this would be really fun to use while reading a fantasy novel. The next one that I have is the Avo Bath one, which is just this really pretty green, and it has avocado in it. And it smells honestly like a piece of candy, like something that I would want to eat. It's the forbidden candy. I didn't get this one to pair with any particular kind of book. This is just for general relaxation, and I'm looking forward to using this one. And then the next one that I got, which was really cool and something I normally wouldn't buy, is the Black Rose Bath Bomb. I kind of had this feeling that buying a bath bomb that was black might end up like either staining the tub or that I would need to clean myself off afterwards, but it smelled too good to pass up, and it has glitter in it, and it just looked like a lot of fun. So I decided to pick it up anyway, and it reminds me of my favorite bar of soap that's there. That's like the Rose Argan Oil soap, which I never buy. And this was way less expensive than buying a bar of that. So I just want to keep smelling it. It smells so good. Afterwards, Keaton wanted to go to the Barnes & Noble, so we wandered around there for a while just talking about different books, and he also ended up looking at some records. He went there looking for a specific book in a series that he's reading, but unfortunately they didn't have a copy of it, or they said that they had a copy of it, but somebody misplaced it, so we weren't able to find it. But it's okay because he found a couple other books that he was interested in, so he didn't come away empty-handed. Now, I have still not bought any books. I'm holding out strong. I'm doing a good job, but I did see one there that really intrigued me because the cover was absolutely beautiful, and then I read the synopsis and I was like, oh my god, that sounds like the book for me. And it's called The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor. So just look at this cover. Like, look at how gorgeous this is. It's about a researcher who's studying a dangerously hyper-intelligent species of octopus, and they have developed their own language and culture. And there's this company called Dyanima that is sending out the researchers to study the octopuses, but of course it's not for a pure purpose of just trying to learn about them. It's so that they can find some way to exploit them. And I love books that have evil corporations, and I think there's an android in it, which sounds really fun. And of course I love octopuses because they're some of the most intelligent creatures in the world. And I wanted it so badly that I immediately checked to see if it was at my local library, and I drove us all the way over there because it was on the way home, and I went in and I picked up a copy. There was one copy there, and you can see that the cover isn't the same. It's not quite as beautiful, but it's still a really cool cover. This is the original one because of course it's the hardback edition. So I'm really excited to read this, and I then thought, and I didn't do this on purpose at all, but I was like, you know, now I have a bath bomb that's black that would look like ink, like from an octopus. I really didn't do that on purpose, but it's gonna be fun anyway. I also took Barker for a walk when we got home, and you saw his ears perk up when I say that word. It's because he loves to go for walks. But Bubby, you already got a long one and it's really hot outside. It is really hot outside. We came in and we're cooling off, and he's actually been laying down on my rug like a little sausage, just trying to rest up. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna stay indoors. We're gonna chill out for the rest of the day. We got pizza to eat, and I'm gonna read some more of Howl's Moving Castle. I need to update you on the fact that I've been reading Howl's Moving Castle. That's what the heck this video's about. I'm so sorry about that. I got wrapped up in what I did for the day. So I now understand the main premise of the book. I'm 44 pages in, and our main character Sophie has been turned into an old woman by the Witch of the Waste after some sort of misunderstanding about the way that Sophie creates hats. So she ended up leaving town, and she didn't really say why. She also wasn't particularly worried, and I guess it's implied that it's because she's in shock, but she ended up walking up to Howl's Moving Castle and basically broke in to his castle and just decided to stay there for the evening because she desperately needed a place to rest. She also made a pact with a fire demon, which seems like a really bad idea. And that's what I have so far. I probably won't tell very much more about the story's plot after this, just because I wouldn't want to spoil anything for anybody, but this is still pretty early into the book. 44 of 308 pages really isn't a lot. But I'm really liking it. I think that it's a cozy fantasy world. It's really cute, and I think that it's just going to be a really nice way to kind of decompress, especially after reading an emotional book like Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. That's what I'm going to do. Those are my plans for the rest of the day, and I'll catch up with you soon.
The next day.
Hi, so I'm actually almost 70% of the way through Howl's Moving Castle, and I wanted to give you an update on how I felt about it. I can definitely say that I like it. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's my favorite fantasy novel ever, but it's easy to consume, and I think the characters are pretty likable. Sophie's an interesting main character because Howl views her as a pain, and honestly, she is. And she's content being a pain. Whenever I try to sit and think about who my favorite character is, I find that it's rather difficult because I view Howl and Sophie as having the most depth of character, but Michael and Calcifer as being the two most likable people. I honestly have no idea, but one thing I am certain of is I'm going to be able to finish this book tonight, and I will give you an update when I get to the end that will not have any spoilers. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody who still might want to read this book. Obviously, I went this whole time without knowing anything about Howl's Moving Castle. It's possible that you don't either. I am pretty sure that I know how it's going to end though. Now, I'm not going to say that it was totally telegraphed, but if it ends up ending the way that I think that it will, it was telegraphed. I can definitely say that it is a pretty good palate cleanser though after reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, so if you just got done reading a really sad book and you want a book that's just kind of silly and fun, read Howl's Moving Castle. Hey everybody, so it's late at night. I'm talking a little quieter because Keaton's actually asleep out on the couch right now. We were both reading and he passed out, but I was determined to get through Howl's Moving Castle. And I did. I got to the end. It was actually shorter than I thought. I didn't realize that so much of the book was actually an interview with the author. So it ended on page 247 of what I thought was 308 In terms of the characters, they were deeply flawed, but as the author so eloquently put it, characters who aren't flawed are very boring to read about, especially heroes. So I think if you're looking for characters that have issues like vanity or impulsiveness or stubbornness, this would be a good book to read. I personally didn't really care for the romance elements of the story between any of the characters. I didn't find that to be the most compelling part, though apparently a lot of people are really attracted to Howl and found him to be the marrying kind, which is very funny because Howl is a womanizer who constantly just wants different women to fall in love with him, and even the author says he is the last man on earth that she would want to marry because he seems like such a terrible match. But because I haven't seen Howl's Moving Castle adapted into the movie, I had no idea what the differences were, but she actually talks about it in the interview, and she says that in the movie, Howl and Sophie are both gentler and more noble than they are in the book, which doesn't really surprise me because Miyazaki's work is light and warm-hearted, and I can't imagine him having characters that are, I don't know, as irritating, I guess, as you could say, as the characters kind of are in the story. They're not just flawed, they're deeply flawed. That said, I would like to watch the movie. I'd like to see the movie adaptation. I'm not going to do that in this vlog because I am actually going to need to edit this video and finish editing 2 other videos tomorrow so that I can get ready for a trip that Keaton and I are going on, and this video is going to be uploaded and you're probably watching this the day that we're getting back. So I don't have time to watch the movie. This is the end of the vlog, but I do need to give you a final rating. It's not 5 stars for me because if I had to pick a book that does something similar, but I think does it better, I would pick Stardust by Neil Gaiman. So if you're wanting kind of more of an adult version of a Howl's Moving Castle that has more likable characters, I would recommend that you read that instead. I think it would be fair to tell people who are fans of fantasy that they should read Howl's Moving Castle once. I don't think that I intend to read either of the sequels because I just wasn't into the story enough or into their romance enough or the characters enough to want to follow up with them with their lives. But if I were to look at this as a standalone novel, I would say, yeah, if you're a fan of fantasy, go ahead and read it once. I'm going to give it 4 stars. I'm going to wish you all good night. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, that you all stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.